I was sitting in a booth at a seafood restaurant in Charleston with my husband and my mother-in-law. It was our third anniversary dinner. The candles flickered between us, the wine was expensive, and my husband kept squeezing my hand like he meant it. That's when a woman I'd never seen before slid into the seat next to me, pressed a sealed envelope into my lap, and whispered, "Don't go home tonight. He's not who you think he is." Before I could even turn my head, she was gone, vanished into the crowded restaurant like smoke. My husband came back from the restroom smiling, and I shoved the envelope into my purse, my hands shaking under the table. When I finally opened that envelope alone in my car at midnight, everything I believed about my life collapsed in 60 seconds. It truly means so much to me that you've chosen to spend your time here. Now please share in the comments which city or country you're watching from. I want to know how far this story has reached. I should note that while this story includes fictionalized details created for narrative and educational purposes, and any resemblance to real names or places is purely coincidental, the core message I want to deliver is the same. I hope that sticks with you long after you finish listening. My name is Sienna, and 3 years ago, I married a man named Garrett Cole. He was charming, confident, the kind of man who walked into a room and made everyone feel like they mattered. We met at a fundraising gala in Savannah when I was 28. He was 34, an investment consultant with a corner office downtown, and a smile that could melt steel. 6 months later, we were married. My father, Thomas Ashby, had passed away 2 years before the wedding. He left me his life's work, a 100-acre lavender farm on the outskirts of Charleston called Wisteria Fields. My father had built it from nothing, planted every row himself, designed the distillery where we made essential oils and artisan soaps that shipped across the country. It was worth $12 million, and it was everything I had left of him. Garrett always said he loved the farm. He'd walk the rows with me at sunset, breathe in the lavender, tell me how lucky we were. But lately, his tone had shifted. Over the past 6 months, he'd been pushing me to sell. At dinner that night, with his mother Gloria sitting across from us, nodding like a puppet, he made his case again. "Sienna, sweetheart, you're running yourself into the ground. The farm is beautiful, but it's bleeding money. Property taxes alone are killing us. You're not a businesswoman, you're an artist. Let me handle this." "I am handling it," I said. Gloria leaned forward, her pearl necklace catching the candlelight. "Honey, Garrett only wants what's best for you. Your father would understand." "Don't bring my father into this," I said, sharper than I intended. Gloria's eyes narrowed, but she smiled. She always smiled. That's what made her dangerous, though I didn't know it yet. When Garrett excused himself to the restroom and Gloria went to take a phone call outside, I was alone at the table for maybe 90 seconds. That's when the woman appeared. She was small, maybe mid-50s, with dark hair streaked with gray and deep lines around her eyes. She moved fast, sliding the envelope under the table and pressing it into my hands. Her fingers were ice cold. "Don't go home tonight," she said. Her voice was barely audible over the restaurant noise. "He's not who you think he is. Who are you?" I whispered. But she was already moving, weaving between tables, and then she pushed through the kitchen door and disappeared. Garrett came back 30 seconds later. "Everything okay?" he asked, tilting his head. "You look pale." "I'm fine," I said, "just tired." I pressed my purse against my side, feeling the sharp edge of the envelope through the leather. I smiled at him. He smiled back. And in that moment, sitting across from my husband in that warm, candlelit restaurant, I felt more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. I didn't go home. I told Garrett I needed to stop by the farm office to check on a late shipment. He offered to come with me. I said no. His jaw tightened for just a second, then relaxed. "Okay, baby. Don't stay too late." I drove to the farm, parked behind the distillery where no one could see my car from the road, and sat in the darkness with the engine off. My hands were shaking so badly it took 3 tries to open the envelope. Inside were 3 things: a photograph, a USB drive, and a handwritten letter on yellow legal paper. The photograph showed Garrett standing in what looked like a warehouse, shaking hands with a man I didn't recognize. The man was tall, bald, with a thick scar running from his left ear to his chin. They were both smiling. Behind them, I could see wooden crates stacked floor to ceiling. The letter was written in careful, deliberate handwriting. "Dear Sienna, My name is Colette Fournier. I was your father's accountant for 15 years. I handled his books, his taxes, his estate planning. When he died, I was supposed to oversee the transfer of Wisteria Fields to you. Instead, I was pushed out. Your husband hired a new attorney named Vivian Holt to handle the probate. I was told my services were no longer needed. For 2 years, I stayed quiet. I moved to Beaufort, started over, tried to forget. But 3 months ago, I discovered something that made silence impossible. Your father's original will left 60% of the farm to you and 40% to the Low Country Children's Hospital, the hospital that cared for your mother during her final months of cancer treatment. Your father wanted to honor her memory. That donation was his dying wish. The will that was filed in probate court is a forgery. The hospital was erased from the document entirely. You received 100%, which means there was no third-party audit, no outside oversight. Your husband needed that. Because underneath your lavender fields, in the old smuggling tunnels that date back to the Civil War, Garrett and his associates have been running an operation that would destroy everything your father built. The USB drive contains recordings, photographs, and financial documents I've gathered over the past 3 months. I'm sorry I didn't come forward sooner. I was afraid. But I can't let another innocent person die because of my cowardice. Please contact FBI Special Agent Marcus Webb at this number. He's been investigating Garrett's associates for 2 years. He will protect you. And Sienna, do not go home tonight. Do not confront Garrett. Do not tell anyone about this letter. If Garrett suspects you know, he will accelerate his plan. You have less than 72 hours. Colette Fournier. I read the letter 4 times. Each time, the words hit harder. My father's will was forged. A hospital that cared for my dying mother was robbed of millions. And my husband, the man who kissed me every morning and told me he loved me every night, was running some kind of criminal operation underneath the farm I'd inherited. I wanted to throw up. I wanted to scream. Instead, I plugged the USB drive into my laptop. The folder contained 41 files. Audio recordings, photographs, video clips, scanned financial documents. I clicked on the first video. The timestamp read the 8th of September 2025. The footage was grainy, shot from a hidden angle. It showed Garrett standing in a dimly lit underground chamber, surrounded by rows of wooden crates. He was on the phone, pacing. The shipment goes out Thursday from the port of Charleston. Container 9 Delta, 12 million in product. Victor's people will handle distribution on the other end. Moscow first, then Berlin. I need Sienna to sign the power of attorney by Wednesday. Once I have legal control of the property, we move the entire operation to the new facility in Myrtle Beach. His voice was calm, businesslike, like he was discussing a quarterly earnings report. Then he said something that stopped my heart. If she won't sign, we go to Plan B, same as we did with Nathan. My blood turned to ice. Nathan Voss. He'd been a farmhand at Wisteria Fields, a quiet young man with a wife named Lucia and a 3-year-old son named Mateo. 8 months ago, Nathan had died in what the police called a tractor accident. He'd been found in the south field at dawn, crushed beneath an overturned machine. The case was closed in less than a week. I'd attended his funeral. I'd held Lucia's hand while she sobbed. And now I was hearing my husband casually reference Nathan's death as a template for my own murder. I called Agent Marcus Webb at 2 a.m. He answered on the second ring. His voice was steady, professional, the kind of voice that told you he'd taken calls like this before. "Mrs. Cole," he said after I'd finished explaining everything, "I've been waiting for someone to come forward. We've been investigating your husband's network for 26 months. But we need your help." The next morning, I drove to the FBI field office in Charleston. Agent Webb was exactly what I expected. Mid-40s, close-cropped gray hair, sharp eyes that missed nothing. His partner, a tech specialist named Diana Cho, set up the USB drive on her laptop and started cataloging the files. "This is substantial," Diana said, scrolling through Colette's evidence. Financial records linking Garrett to an international arms trafficking ring run by a man named Viktor Kozlov. Shipment logs, bank transfers, coded communications. And this, she clicked on a photograph showing the underground chamber beneath my farm. Webb leaned forward. "Your property sits on a network of Civil War-era tunnels. Smugglers use them to move goods along the coast. Your husband has been using them to store and transport illegal weapons, military-grade firearms, explosives, and ammunition, shipping them overseas through the port of Charleston. How long? I whispered. Webb's expression was grim. At least 3 years. Since before he married you. The words hit me like a physical blow. He married me for the farm. Not for love, not for partnership. For 100 acres of tunnels and a port connection. Everything, the romance, the wedding, the anniversary dinners, was a performance. Webb gave me a moment. Then he continued. We need to talk about Nathan Voss. I nodded, my throat tight. Colette's recordings include a conversation between Garrett and his mother, Gloria. Webb pulled up an audio file. I heard Gloria's voice first, calm and controlled. Nathan saw the shipment being loaded. He was working late in the south field and wandered too close to the tunnel entrance. Then Garrett's voice, I handled it, made it look like a tractor malfunction. Detective Pryor signed off on the accident report. Cost me $60,000, but it's clean. No investigation, no questions. Webb paused the recording. Detective Frank Pryor, 28 years with Charleston PD. Decorated officer. He's been on Kozlov's payroll since 2022. He classified Nathan's death as an accident and buried the evidence. I felt sick. A man had been murdered on my property, by my husband, and the detective who was supposed to investigate had been bought. Nathan's wife, his little boy, they never had a chance at justice. Then came the part that shattered me completely. Webb connected a video call with a woman named Patricia Engel, an estate attorney based in Atlanta. She appeared on screen looking composed but serious. Mrs. Cole, she said, I handled your father's estate planning in 2019. He was very specific about his wishes. Your father's original will allocated 60% of Wisteria Fields to you and 40% to Low Country Children's Hospital. The hospital treated your mother's ovarian cancer for 3 years. Your father wanted to honor her memory with that donation. If the hospital had received that bequest, they would have conducted a full audit of the property, financial records, physical inspections, environmental assessments. That audit would have uncovered the tunnel operation within weeks. So the will was forged, I said, my voice hollow. Patricia nodded. Vivian Holt, the attorney your husband hired, altered the document to remove the hospital entirely. You inherited 100%, which meant no outside oversight. No one would ever look too closely at the property. And Vivian, I asked, is she involved with Garrett? Webb answered. Vivian Holt has been Garrett's attorney, his co-conspirator, and his lover for over 2 years. They've been meeting at a hotel in Kiowa Island every other week. We have surveillance footage. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table. My husband was sleeping with his attorney while planning to murder me and steal everything my father had built. Webb gave me a moment, then continued. There's more. Gloria Cole, your mother-in-law, isn't just aware of the operation. She's a founding partner. She and Kozlov go back 15 years. She introduced Garrett to the network when he was 22. This isn't a man who went wrong. This is a family business. Everything inside me crumbled. The woman who'd sat across from me at dinner, who'd called me honey, who'd hugged me at my wedding, had been orchestrating everything from the beginning. Gloria picked me for Garrett. She chose me because of my father's farm, because of the tunnels, because I was young and trusting and alone. Leave the word truth in the comments if you think I made it out alive. I need to know you're still with me on this journey. Please note that what happens next contains dramatized elements created to deliver the message. If this content isn't right for you, you can stop the video here. The plan came together in 48 hours. Webb's team wired me with a transmitter hidden in my necklace pendant and fitted me with a panic button disguised as a bracelet. 12 agents would be positioned around the farm. 2 in the distillery, 3 in the barn, 2 on the roof of the main house with long-range surveillance, and 5 in unmarked vehicles at the property entrance. Webb and Diana would monitor everything from a mobile command unit parked half a mile away. My job was simple and terrifying. Get Garrett to talk. I called Garrett that afternoon, forcing my voice to sound exhausted and defeated. You're right, I said. I can't do this anymore. The farm is too much. Let's sell. There was a pause. Then his voice softened with practiced warmth. Baby, I'm so glad to hear you say that. I'll have the paperwork ready tonight. Meet me at the distillery at 8. We'll sign together, just us, just us. The words made my skin crawl. At 8 o'clock, I walked into the distillery. The copper stills gleamed in the low light. The air smelled like lavender and something sharper underneath. Adrenaline maybe, or fear. Garrett was already there, standing at the long wooden table where we used to blend oils together. Vivian Holt sat beside him, a stack of legal documents fanned out in front of her. And Gloria stood near the door, arms crossed, watching me with those sharp, calculating eyes. "Sienna," Garrett said, smiling, "come sit down." I sat across from him. Vivian pushed the documents toward me. "Sale agreement," she said crisply. $12 million. Wire transfer in 72 hours. I picked up the pen, then I set it down. "Before I sign," I said quietly, "I need to know something." Garrett's smile flickered. "What?" I looked him in the eyes. "What happened to Nathan Voss?" The room went silent. Gloria's hand dropped to her side. Vivian's face went blank. Garrett stared at me, and I watched the mask slip. Just for a second. Then it was back. "What are you talking about?" "Don't," I said. "I know about the tunnels. I know about Viktor Kozlov. I know about the weapons, the shipments, and I know you killed Nathan because he saw too much. I know Vivian forged my father's will to cut out the hospital, and I know you planned to kill me the same way if I didn't cooperate." Garrett stood slowly. His chair scraped against the stone floor. He reached into his jacket. When his hand came out, it held a pistol. Behind me, I heard Gloria's sharp intake of breath. Not surprise, frustration. "You stupid girl," Gloria said coldly. "You could have taken the money and walked away." I kept my eyes on Garrett. My finger hovered over the panic button on my wrist, and then the doors exploded open. FBI agents poured in from every direction, weapons drawn, red laser sights cutting through the dim light like a web. "FBI, drop your weapon, hands in the air." Webb's voice thundered through the distillery, amplified by a megaphone. Garrett froze. His eyes darted between me and the agents surrounding him. For one terrible second, I thought he might shoot. Then the gun clattered to the floor. He dropped to his knees. Vivian didn't resist. She simply stood there, expressionless, as an agent cuffed her hands behind her back. Gloria tried to run. She made it 3 steps before 2 agents caught her, forcing her to the ground. She screamed obscenities the entire way down. Webb walked in calmly, stepping over the pistol on the floor. "Garrett Cole, you're under arrest for the murder of Nathan Voss, conspiracy to commit murder, international arms trafficking, obstruction of justice, and money laundering. You have the right to remain silent." Garrett didn't look at me. Not once. They let him out in handcuffs, into the flashing lights of the FBI vehicles parked in the lavender fields. Gloria and Vivian followed in separate cars. I stood in the empty distillery, my legs shaking, my ears ringing. Webb touched my shoulder. "You did it," he said. I nodded. But I couldn't speak, because all I could think about was Nathan Voss, who'd been killed for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and my father, whose dying wish had been stolen by the people I trusted most. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The courtroom was packed every day. Reporters, neighbors, Nathan's family sitting in the front row. Lucia Voss held her son Matteo on her lap. He was 4 now, with his father's dark curls and wide brown eyes. He didn't understand why they were there. He just knew his daddy was gone. I gave my victim statement on the last day. I stood at the podium and looked at Garrett. He stared straight ahead, refusing to meet my eyes. "My husband didn't just betray me," I said. "He murdered an innocent man." Nathan Voss was 26 years old. He had a wife who loved him and a son who will grow up without a father. Garrett took Nathan's life to protect a criminal empire built on lies, violence, and greed, and he planned to do the same to me. I turned to Lucia. She was crying silently, clutching Matteo against her chest. "Nathan deserved justice," I said. "His family deserves peace, and I hope this verdict gives them at least a piece of that." Judge Catherine Moreau read the sentences. Garrett Cole, life in federal prison, without the possibility of parole. Gloria Cole, 30 years for conspiracy, accessory to murder, and racketeering. Vivian Holt, 22 years for forgery, conspiracy, and obstruction. Detective Frank Pryor, 15 years for bribery, evidence tampering, and obstruction of justice. Victor Kozlov, life in federal prison without parole. When the gavel came down, the courtroom erupted. Lucia Voss collapsed into sobs. I walked over to her and knelt beside her. She grabbed my hand and held it so tight I thought my bones would crack. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for not letting them get away with it." The probate court restored my father's original will 2 months later. Low Country Children's Hospital received their $4.8 million bequest, exactly as my father had intended. They used it to establish the Thomas Ashby Pediatric Cancer Research Wing, funding cutting-edge treatment for the same disease that took my mother. And alongside it, they created the Nathan Voss Memorial Fund. Within 6 months, that fund had provided treatment for over 60 children with cancer. 60 families who now had hope because of a farmhand who'd simply been doing his job on a quiet September night. Colette Fournier testified at the trial and was granted immunity for her cooperation. She now works as a forensic accountant for the FBI, helping other families uncover financial crimes. She saved my life with an envelope and the courage to stop being silent. I rebuilt Wisteria Fields, not as it was, but as something new. The old tunnels were sealed permanently, filled with concrete. In their place, we built an underground museum documenting the history of the property, from Civil War smuggling routes to its rebirth as a lavender farm. Tourists come from all over the country to see it. I hired 2 young graduates from Clemson, Jordan, and Maeve to manage the distillery. They brought fresh energy and new ideas. We launched a line of lavender honey and a small batch perfume that sold out in 2 weeks. The farm was alive again, not because of crime or greed, but because of love and hard work, the way my father always intended. On Christmas Eve 2025, I sat on the porch of the farmhouse with Colette beside me. The lavender fields stretched out before us, silver in the moonlight. Christmas lights twinkled along the fence posts. A young magnolia tree stood at the edge of the south field, planted in Nathan's memory. It was small, barely taller than Mateo, but it would grow for 100 years. Colette handed me a glass of sweet tea. "We don't drink alcohol on the farm anymore. A personal choice, a fresh start." "Your father would be proud," she said quietly. "I know," I whispered. "And so would Nathan." We sat in silence, watching the stars appear one by one over the low country. The farm was quiet. The air smelled like lavender and pine, and something I hadn't felt in a very long time: peace. And to those of you listening, remember this: betrayal from someone you love cuts deeper than any wound from a stranger. I learned that when my own husband chose greed over love, when the people I called family turned out to be the greatest threat I'd ever faced. But God showed me another way. God gave me strength when I had none left. God brought Colette into my life to warn me when no one else would. I won't lie, the scars are still there. Some nights I wake up reaching for a hand that isn't beside me anymore, and the anger rises like a wave. But chasing revenge would destroy me the same way it destroyed Garrett. Instead, I chose justice. I chose to rebuild instead of burn. Don't be like me. Don't wait for tragedy to force you to see the truth. If you sense betrayal in your home, face it early. Speak up. Get help. Don't let silence become complicity. Here's what I believe now. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means refusing to let bitterness consume your future. My husband stole my trust, but he couldn't steal my purpose. God reminds me of that every morning when the sun rises over the lavender. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. Have you ever experienced betrayal? How did you overcome it? Share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to this channel for more real lessons on resilience, justice, and redemption. Thank you for listening to the very end. I know this wasn't easy. Please note that the stories on this channel contain fictionalized elements created for educational purposes. If this content isn't right for you, please feel free to move on and find other content that better suits your needs.